Welcome to Igneous Metrology class. Today we will discuss textures of igneous rocks. As you all know, textures are intimate mutual relations of mineral constituents and glassy matter in a rock made up of uniform aggregate. And the textures are indicators of the geological processes and provide valuable information regarding physical chemistry of cooling and solidification of igneous rocks. The description of textures requires consideration of number one. You can see it here. I have given here the degree of crystallization, means to what extent the rock has the crystallinity. Second, the absolute sizes of crystals, actual grains or the granularity. Means what is the actual sizes. There is a great variation in the sizes of the grains. And third, the shape of the crystals. That is the shape of the crystals. This is the shape of the crystals. And the fourth, the mutual relations of the crystals or the crystals and the glassy matter. A rock may have, igneous rock may have all crystals or it may have crystals and the glassy matter. So these are the four, you can say, the headings under which we can study the textures of igneous rocks. Now coming to the first, the degree of crystallization. On the basis of degree of crystallization, we can characterize a rock into hollow crystalline, that is on the degree of crystallization. Now this is degree of crystallization, means here we can say if a rock is totally composed of crystals, then that will be hollow crystalline. There may be case where the rock is totally glassy, then that will be hollow haline. And if it is a mixture of crystals and the glassy matter, then the rock will be, we can call the various names for the textures as merocrystalline, hemicrystalline. This is the third case. So we all know that igneous rocks, they may be totally crystalline. If they are totally crystalline, then we use the term the hollow crystalline. If the whole mass of igneous rock is in glassy state, then we characterized or we name the texture as the hollow hyaline. Right? And if it is partly, that rock is composed partly of the glassy matter and part of the crystalline state, then that will be called as the microcrystalline, hemicrystalline. Now this will depend upon the crystalline stage depends upon the rate of cooling, means at what rate of magma is cooling. If it is a rapid cooling of the magma, that generally takes in the extrusive or in the lava, then naturally there won't be formation of the crystal, but that magma or you can say the lava converts into solid state without formation of the crystals, and that will be called the hollow hyaline. Thus, contrary to it, if a magma is crystallizing at very slow rate of cooling, naturally there will be formation of the crystals, and the whole that magma has converted into a solid state, forming the crystals, and that will be called hollow crystalline. The intermediate part or intermediate stage, that is called merocrystalline, hypocrystalline, hemicrystalline, is used when the rock is partly crystalline and partly glassy. Now, on the basis of degree of crystallization, the rocks, igneous rocks, can be classified into three categories, that is the hollow crystalline, merocrystalline, and hollow hyaline. These three depend upon the rate of the cooling and the viscosity of the magma. Means at what rate the magma is cooling. If there is slow cooling, there will be formation of the crystals. Similarly, viscosity of the magma, because viscosity of the magma is mainly controlled by the SiO2 content. So, if a magma has less SiO content, naturally it has less viscosity, or you can say more fluidity. In that case, there will be formation of the crystals. And just reverse of it, if it is has a high SiO2, generally the granitic rocks, naturally they have high viscosity and there is less chances of formation of the crystals and the hollow hyaline texture results. Now the second consideration of this the granularity means the actual sizes of the grains. The granularity, you can say the ratio of the crystals that are found in igneous rocks, they are from on an average 1 is to 1000. What the ratio of the height of human beings is 1 is to 4. Just if you can say the highest, or you can say the height of a human being can be 8 feet and the minimum can be 4 feet. The ratio is 1 over 4 feet, 1 is to 4. But in just similar to it, in igneous rocks, the granularity or the actual size of the grains, the ratio, average ratio is 1 is to 1000. Means the grains are so large that you cannot even accommodate in your arms, and the grains are so small that even you cannot understand, can see in the microscope. So that is the granularity, means the absolute size of the grains. On that basis, we crystallize igneous rocks or the textures into two categories, that is the phenocrystalline or the pheneric, means those grains which can be visualized with the naked eyes, and that further are divided into three categories. That is in the further three into categories, that is coarse grain, just that is the coarse grain granularity phenocrystalline, means the grains are further divided into three categories: coarse grain, medium grain, and fine grained. What you see in the coarse grained, once we say the coarse grained, when you use the term coarse grained for igneous rocks, that means the grains average diameter is more than 5 millimeter. When you use the term medium grain, means the average diameter is from 1 to 5, and fine grain when the diameter is less than 1 millimeter. So the means once we can see the grains with your naked eyes, they can be categorized into three categories: coarse, medium, and fine. If the diameter of the grains are more than 5 millimeter, they are called coarse grained. If the diameter is from 1 to 5 millimeter, they are medium grained. Fine grained when less than 1 millimeter diameter. Now you can compare these with your day to day. You can see your gram मूंग, the चना, देसी चने से अगर अधिक डायमीटर है, अगर उसके साइज के ग्रेन्स हैं, दैट विल बी कोर्स ग्रेन. मीडियम ग्रेन मीन्स मूंग जो होता है अपना, उससे समान साइज के ग्रेन्स हैं तो उनको मीडियम करेंगे ही, और लेस देन मीन्स बाजरे से कम होंगे तो उनको 1 मिलीमीटर कहेंगे. दिस इज इन, यू कैन से इन योर देसी टर्मिनोलॉजी. Now the second category is aphanitic, means once the rock is in the crystalline state but we cannot visualize with our naked eyes, then they will be called aphanitic. In aphanitic further, the division is means depends upon, means your this aphanitic coarse, medium, fine depends. The aphanitic means microcrystalline. This is the aphanitic terminology. I will show you here. Aphanitic. Now, because this cannot move without this okay. This is aphanitic, right? Aphanitic further into three categories, means microcrystalline, means we can see the grain size crystalline state with microscope, cryptocrystalline, and the glassy if the grains are of zero grain size. So this is the second heading of the description of the textures, that is the phenocrystalline, pheneric, or the aphanitic. Now third is your shape of the crystals. Shape of the crystals on the basis of the development of phases. The first category is on the basis of development of the phases, that is in the three categories, that is your on the development of the faces. This is euhedral, subhedral and anhedral. If the all faces are developed, then we call the grains as the euhedral. If some of the faces, partly faces are developed, then subhedral, and none of the faces are developed, then anhedral. Similarly, on the basis of the relative development in three dimensions of the space, that in the three dimensions, if the grain is equally grained in all three directions of the space, then we call equidimensional. If they are better grown in two directions, tabular in one direction, they are prismatic. So this is the shape of the crystals. Now the most important, that is the mutual relations, of the grains. That is there. So again, further on dividing on the mutual relations, we can say if the grains are equigranular and they have the euhedral shape, then the texture term will be the pendiomorphic. Right? Now this is now various textures I can show here. This is the case of your this texture. This is, you can see in this diagram. What we see here is it is the crystalline degree of crystallinity. All are in the crystalline state. So this is your holocrystalline, that way, right? Now this is all totally in the glassy state. This part, so right, this is totally glassy. This is will be called as your holohyaline. This will be called as holocrystalline, and here what we see is that it is a hemicrystalline or monocrystalline, right? Then the next you can see, observe here is in this diagram. Now this is your elytromorphic texture. This is, I will show you here that this is what it is. Now this, what you see is the faces are not developed but the grains are of equal size. So this is your elytromorphic. What you see is your pendiomorphic. Here the crystals in the B section of this, all crystals have the, you can say, well defined, or you can say the shapes and are equivalent. This is pendiomorphic. And the third category, this is where crystals have the subhedral shape and are of equal grain size. So this is your what, epidemiomorphic or the granitic texture. So in this diagram you can see it here. This is the A section or A part. This is your elytromorphic, B is your pendiomorphic, and C is your epidemiomorphic. So these are the different textures that are there. Now next in the diagram, coming to this is your now let's go back and check it. The various texture terms that are there. Now once we see the pendiomorphic textures, means the rock has equal grain size and the shape of the crystals is epidemiomorphic. Once we say elytromorphic, it means the grains are of equal size but their shape is anhedral. So this is when the crystals are of equal size. When the crystals are of different sizes, then there are two categories, porphyritic and the polylytic textures. Porphyritic means the large grains are embedded into smaller ones, right? This is case of the porphyritic. Now this is porphyritic texture, where these are the phenocryst embedded in the ground mass. This is the porphyritic texture. And in the second category, this is the polylytic texture, where a large grain includes smaller crystals. So these are the different, you can say, and the very common that texture is the your aphatic texture, polylytic texture. The special case is aphatic texture, in which the less of plagioclase they are included into the your augite crystal, right? So this is all about the textures of igneous rocks. We'll discuss some other topic in the next class. Thank you very much for this. Thank you.